A caveman is working, drawing symbols and images across a stone wall. As he works on his art, a shadowy figure appears behind him, immediately attacking the man and ending his life. Fast forward to the contemporary world. The stone wall with the paintings from the caveman is still preserved. A group of friends is traveling together on a trip together. They mess around as Anya grows impatient from their long journey. They tease Chris about her relationship as Warren, in the back, has fun talking about Chris's romantic life. Chris is irritated, but Mel enjoys the conversation as she keeps making sarcastic comments. Warren then gets his hands on Mel's handbag, threatening to look inside. Mel tries to grab her bag, but her efforts bear no fruit as Warren tightly grips it. Chad is sitting beside his girlfriend, unbothered. But after Mel gives up retrieving her bag, he ends the conversation by mocking the man stuffed in the trunk. While the group itself is uninterested in their reason for visiting, Anya and Dace are on their way to look at cave paintings. Anya's ancestor from 120 years ago discovered cave paintings, after which no one could reach the same historic artifact again. Anya and Dace are interested, as they would be the first to see the art after almost a century of no human visitors. Anya's ancestor, 120 years ago, encountered a strange creature with sharp teeth and a round mouth. The man slashes the humanoid creature down. The people in the group try to play games to entertain themselves. Mel apologizes for using a swear word, as Anya disapproves of such language. The group seems to respect Anya more than each other, almost like she is their older sister. Regardless, Mel keeps joking until she eventually makes a sexual joke about her boyfriend, Chad. Chad does not respond well, so Mel apologizes to her uninterested boyfriend. Dace then suddenly stops the car, noticing that the mountains beyond their road resemble one of Anya's drawings from her ancestor. The drawing shows the location of the cave paintings from the exact spot where Dace stopped the car. Finally, the group reaches their destination. With their small celebrations aside, they start hiking through a small corridor surrounded by rock onto more rocky and rough terrain. Eventually, they all successfully reach the cave they have been looking for. Everyone enters when Chris notices Anya, the one most eager to go, is not with them. She moves back and helps Mel along, as Anya is uncomfortable inside the cave. Chris helps her by distracting her with sarcastic conversation as they keep walking. They keep going through the cave and looking around at the magnificent sights. Chad comments about the cave's beauty, to which Mel accuses her boyfriend of being queer. Mel is walking around a dark puddle when she is startled by Warren popping out from behind her. Mel screams, but eventually faces up against him. Warren backs off, but the group has more significant concerns as Anya begins to have a panic attack. Anya wobbles, hurting herself by bumping into the cave walls and eventually crashing into the ground. Anya blacks out. Anya wakes up outside, with Chris and Dace looking after her. Warren brings a first aid kit and hands it over to Chris. Chris starts wrapping the bandage around Anya's arm as the rest of the group share awkward glances at each other. They are all irritated by Anya's weak heart, succumbing to her anxiety and causing a big scene in the cave. Even Mel and Chad share a glance, supposedly mocking the women in their silence. Dace then decides that instead of going through the cave, the group will leave Anya and Warren to get to their campsite in the car, while the rest traverse the cave to reach their destination. The trekkers eventually reach the end of the cave and find themselves in the wilderness. Beside the cave exit, the group finally sees the wall with the cave painting. Anya, meanwhile, finally reaches the campsite. The two park the car so the rest of the group can get their belongings from the trunk. Chad checks up on Anya, all while it seems he still does not take her panic attack seriously. With their belongings now collected, the group goes into the campsite already set up before them. Immediately as everyone starts to settle in, Chad and Mel decide that the opportunity to make love in a tent with the sun still up will never come again, and get intimate almost immediately. Warren and Anya can hear the two lovebirds as they spare no effort to be quiet, but they joke about it rather than being too offended. They are probably accustomed to the couple's antics, as they treat the situation lightheartedly and check where Chris and Dace are. They tell Warren that they are going together to look at the cave painting, while Anya and Warren both know that Chris and Dace are also in a relationship, so they cannot be too sure about that. Eventually, the two start to play around with each other as they start skipping away from the campsite. Nearby, there is a muddy pond. Warren shows Anya the pond and pulls a plastic bottle from the water's edge. Warren drops the bottle, fearing that the insects might bite him. 4 of them are now looking at the paintings. Dace explains what they might be looking at, as Warren notices a weird squid-like drawing beside the other caveman painting. Dace explains that the choice of white is potentially an indication of danger. Meanwhile, Anya tries to reach for the wall to feel the painting and rock in her hand. As she reaches in, Dace stops her, shouting to startle her away from the prehistoric artifact before them. He thinks the paintings should be admired from a distance, and the group should avoid touching them. Eventually, Warren and Anya leave Chris and Daxie. The two start talking about the paintings as Dace and Chris start chatting and flirting with each other. Eventually, the flirting becomes more apparent, as Chris decides to take a picture of Dace. She snaps a picture, but something suddenly attacks her from the bushes. The bushes rustle as Dace tries to hunt down this mysterious creature attacking them. Eventually, it pounces at them, but Dace takes it down. Back at camp, sausages are cooking on the campfire. Mel emerges from the tent as Dace and Chris return with a rabbit in Dace's hand. The rabbit was responsible for biting Chris and injuring her leg. The rabbit is strange, with a circular mouth and arrangement of teeth. Dace takes the rabbit's carcass hanging it on a wooden stake to set an example for other animals in the forest. At night, the group is sitting together by the campfire. They are enjoying themselves as Anya is drinking a beer. Warren is singing a song and Mel is sitting with her boyfriend. Eventually, Dace and Chris leave to look at the stars together from further away. Warren teases them, as they just want some alone time together. Mel teases around as well, until Chad's insecurities make him angry. Eventually, Mel gets up to swim, taking off her top to enter the pond near their campsite. Mel and Chad go to the pond. Mel removes all her clothes to skinny dip in the strange pond. She goes in as Chad looks at the woman enjoying herself. Mel invites him in, but Chad is angered by her inability to be more particular about caring for her body and what others might be able to see. Mel fights back, but Chad does not care for her insults, as he turns away to leave her behind. Mel goes after her fussy boyfriend to make up with him and talk things out. Chad turns around and sees leeches all around Mel's body. Mel notices the leeches and starts screeching, as Dace sees her in her state and calls Warren to bring the salt. The group removes all the leeches until Mel is finally clear. Afterward, the group goes back to camp, a bit disgruntled. Mel says nothing as she retires into a tent. Everyone enters a tent as Warren and Anya are left behind by the campfire. The two of them have a conversation, Warren checking up on Anya and how she feels about her life. Anya has been through horrible relationships and blames herself for not being strong. She believes herself to be a born victim, even with her claustrophobia causing her to black out in the cave earlier. Warren comforts her and helps her feel better about herself as she leaves to sleep in her tent. Warren stays by the campfire as Anya goes into her tent. In her sleep, Anya is in discomfort until Chad wakes her up. Mel is sick with a fever, and the group needs Anya to deal with her symptoms. Everyone is outside trying to find out what might be the issue with Mel. They cannot conclude anything, so they just go back to sleep. Back in her tent, Mel is very sick. Chad helps her up, as she is clearly in discomfort. He offers her water, but as she drinks from the plastic bottle, blood fills the water. After a while, Mel tries to wake Chad up, crawling on top of him. Eventually, Chad wakes up and switches the light on, revealing blood all around Mel's mouth. Anya comes to the tent to see what's going on with Mel. Mel's teeth are coming out, so Anya asks Chad to bring Dace to the tent. Mel stares into blank space and screams, faltering to the ground and groaning in pain. Chad demands that the group take Mel to a hospital, but Dace wants to take advantage of the opportunity to see ancient paintings. Eventually, Dace looks at Mel's condition, finally deciding that they need to take action and let professionals look at her. It's agreed that Dace stays behind with Chris, as the rest return to the last town to find a hospital. Anya goes to her tent to find her jacket, where she notices the tent has been eaten. The insects from the pond that had eaten through the plastic bottle have made their way to the campsite. Dace carries Mel to the car, while Anya tries to stop and tell him about the creatures that have eaten through the tent. He does not listen. Eventually, he places Mel inside the car and notices the insects have decayed through the car's tires. The vehicle cannot move, so the group resituates Mel to the tent. In the morning, the group is packing up all their belongings as they prepare to disembark from their journey. Dace is mad at the situation, being forced away from the purpose of his trip because his friend is irresponsible. He fights with Chad, blaming the boyfriend for not keeping her on a tighter leash. Throughout their argument, Chris notices Mel at the corner of the campsite, her back turned against everyone. She calls to her, but the woman does not respond. Chris closes in on her and reaches for her, until she turns around and reveals that she has been eating the rabbit that Dace slaughtered before. Eventually, Mel opens her mouth and shrieks, showing the same sharp teeth as the rabbit. Mel pushes Chris down and pounces at Chad, biting the flesh off his arm. Dace and Warren approach her, but Mel forces them back. Dace reaches for a lit piece of firewood, shoving it toward the creature that was once Mel. Mel does not like the fire as Dace approaches her with the lit part of the wood, forcing her to leave the campsite and escape. The group is dumbfounded, but Anya immediately checks Chad to inspect his wound. Chad is in pain, so Anya sends Warren to retrieve the first aid kit from the car. Warren rushes to the car, but is intercepted by Mel on the way back. She pounces at him and gets on top, but Dace reacts immediately by slamming her face repeatedly with a stick. The attacks are ineffective, as Mel keeps taking the hits without reaction. Anya comes with a lit torch and forces Mel away, who now departs into the forest. Anya administers first aid at the campsite. Chad is bleeding profusely, clearly needing stitches. The severe injuries require stitches, but Chad refuses any further assistance. Chris goes through her camera to see if the paintings contain any answers for what is going on. The illustrations are a warning to people, not a narrative. Chad still loves his girlfriend and wants to see the group work to bring her back. Mel finds a wild kangaroo in the woods, immediately hunts it down, and mutilates its carcass. She brings the corpse to the cave, where the body decomposes immediately. It's like the cave has consumed the carcass. The group is planning what they will do, given two options. One is to trap her, and the other is to end her misery. Eventually, Anya decides that the group needs to work on trapping Mel. Everyone prepares a trap using the equipment from their camp. They prepare torches and a trap to capture the wild beast. Chad is decided upon as bait, and he has to lead her into the trap while the others use their torches to force her in. The group then splits up on their search for Mel. Anya is alone, going through the wilderness and calling Mel's name. Chris also does the same, but they both hear no response. Warren is walking around, complaining about nature and their current situation. He notices the sound of rustling, immediately taking a stance to defend himself from an attack. Mel stares at him unnoticed, but she leaves him behind after seeing his torch. Anya is still on her own, but the torch is losing fuel. She tries to rekindle the fire, but is interrupted by the sound of rustles around her. Mel jumps in front of her, noticing the flame going out. Anya backs away as Mel keeps a distance and keeps moving forward. Anya's flame is about to go out, but Warren comes to the rescue with his torch, letting Anya escape. Warren runs immediately afterward. The two of them reach the campsite, where Mel notices that Chad does not have a torch. She chooses him as her victim, running at him and jumping into their trap. The trapped beast is hung by the tree trunks, and they notice Mel struggling inside. Warren asks for further instructions, but the group does not know what to do. Warren loses his composure as he starts shouting at Dace. The two argue, but eventually Mel breaks free by gnawing at the cloth of the trap. Warren immediately ties a rope around her, after which Dace lassos another piece of rope around her. The two try to force her into submission, but her strength surpasses theirs. Mel breaks free from her constraints, running after Warren and Chad. Anya smacks her head with a torch, seemingly knocking her unconscious. Things quiet down as Warren decides to taunt the beast. Mel gets up and thrusts herself onto Warren, biting off a large piece of flesh from his neck. Anya goes to Warren to try and stop the bleeding. The rest chase after Mel, but Mel escapes past the pond. Dace is inside the pond. The group checks for leeches, as they believe they are responsible for Mel's transformation, but Dace is clear. Back at the campsite, Anya holds Warren in her hands as he slowly loses his life on the bare ground. At night, the group is arguing about their next plan of action. With Warren gone, Dace wants them to eliminate Mel, but Chad still wants the group to save her. Anya is speechless as she is still processing the loss of Warren, one of the few caring people in her life. Eventually, the sound of rustling catches the group's attention as Mel reappears at the camp. Mel stands over Warren's body before dining upon the corpse under her. Dace urges that the group finish her off, but Chad is still insistent that they do not consider that as an option. Dace tosses a stick at Mel, forcing her away as she takes Warren's body. Dace and Chris are prepared to finish her off, while Chad still protests. Finally, even Anya caves, and argues that the group must completely rid themselves of Mel. In the woods, Mel is still feasting upon Warren's body. After she is done, she tosses the remainder of the corpse back into the cave as some form of offering. The people in the campsite look for ways to carry out their plans. They look for anything that can be taken as a weapon, but there is nothing. They have a machete packed, but Chad needs to reveal where it is. They realize the machete should be in the car, so they plan to get to the vehicle with torches. Meanwhile, Dace starts feeling sick as he takes his shirt off. Chad does not follow their plan, so the remaining group takes a stance to rush toward the car. However, Dace gets sicker, exhibiting similar symptoms to Mel. The group realizes that the water is the cause of the transformation, and not the leeches, meaning that they need to finish him off immediately. Even Chris, in her fear, agrees that her boyfriend needs to go. Dace is still on the ground, too sick to move, as the group draws straws to choose who does the job. Anya draws the shortest one, so she is left to end Dace's life. She hesitates, even though Dace has accepted his fate. She finally grabs onto the knife that Chad is handing to her. She holds the blade against Dace's neck, but struggles to slash it through. The others urge her, but Anya struggles and eventually moves away. Anya is distraught as Chad hands her the knife again to get the job done. She then grabs a large rock to smash his head in. She tosses the rock at his head, but it does no damage. Anya hurls as she realizes she must do it again, but is too afraid. In their struggle to rid themselves of Dace, Mel shows up at the camp again. Anya immediately reaches for a torch to force her away. Something has changed in Anya, and now she is more confident, demanding that the others listen to her. Mel backs away as Anya instructs that Chad gets the machete from the car. The survivors walk to the car with torches in hand. They are weary of their surroundings, as Mel and Dace are both capable of taking them all down. They eventually find Dace in the forest, and Mel next to him. Mel screams, allowing Chris to go to the car and get the machete. Meanwhile, Chad tries to talk with Mel, trying to get her back by touching on her emotions. Mel is distracted, allowing Anya to approach Dace and finish him off. Chad keeps talking, expressing his love, and apologizing for his issues in the past. Eventually, he decides to leave himself vulnerable, offering to lower his torch just to see his girlfriend back to normal. However, she does not change, instead jumping on Chad. Anya tries to stab and eliminate Dace, but Mel bites Chad and leaves him to chase after Anya. Back in the car, Chris cannot find the machete, and she starts to break down. Meanwhile, Anya notices that she cannot hear Mel anymore, but she turns around and finds her standing before her. Mel grabs her and tosses her away. Chris is still trying to find the machete in the car, but still finds nothing. Meanwhile, Mel tries to drag Anya along until they eventually reach the cave. Anya breaks free from her grip, running inside the cave and taking shelter, while Mel cannot enter the cave for some reason. Mel looks at Anya, taunting her, but Mel does not respond. Chad is sitting by the fire, as he is still bleeding from his injuries. Meanwhile, Chris looks through the car to find the machete, eventually finding it behind the seats. Before she can reach for it, Dace appears in the rear window, now fully transformed. He disappears for a second, only to reappear every time Chris tries to reach for the machete. Eventually, the rear window opens, allowing Dace to climb into the car. Chris gets the machete, but Dace is now in pursuit of her. Anya meanwhile sees Mel leave her behind, so in her newfound courage, she rushes after her. Chris tries to force Dace away as the transformed man tries to come after her. Chad calls out for Chris, but she cannot get away as Dace is still after her. Eventually, Mel comes over and dashes at Dace, the two communicating and taking Chris by dragging her along the ground. Anya tries to prepare a torch to go after them, but they leave before she can get close. Anya gives Chad a bandage, now letting him tie it around himself instead of being caring like she was before. She is angry at him for lowering his torch against Mel, but Chad defends himself. Anya is heartless, punishing Chad for not being a stronger man. The argument is interrupted when they hear Chris screaming from a distance. Anya realizes that the two monsters must be away from the camp, so she rushes into the bushes to find the machete that Chris procured from the car. She comes back to the campsite with the machete in her hand, now planning on how the two of them will retrieve Chris. She knows the cave keeps the monsters away for some reason, so they want to reach the tunnel and lose the monsters there. They both disembark, trying to use the darkness to their advantage instead of a torch. They crouch and walk until they eventually hear Dace and Mel. They catch sight of them, seeing the two indulge in some form of mating dance. Eventually, Dace mounts on top of Mel as if they are about to mate. This makes Chad jealous, who initially dismisses it but is annoyed by it. After Anya and Chad gain distance, Chad decides to give up on everything and return to stop Dace and Mel. His anger blinds him as he runs at Dace and Mel, preparing to fight. He stands no chance as the machete in his hand. Anya rushes after him, as Dace faces off against Chad and Mel faces off against Anya. Chad and Dace brawl, with Dace slashed by the machete multiple times. However, the creature overpowers Chad, eventually latching onto his neck and ripping it apart. Chad falls and perishes, slashing Dace's neck open as his last action. Dace also falls flat on the ground, lifeless. Anya grabs the fallen machete, backing away from Mel with both the machete and the torch in her hand. She eventually reaches the cave, where she looks inside to find Chris. There are strange tentacles across the cave, but they cannot latch onto Anya, who is careful about her surroundings. Anya finally finds Chris, who is groaning in pain. Chris does not respond to Anya as she stares into blank space and screams in fear. Anya comforts Chris, but she is still unresponsive. Anya escorts Chris away, but she keeps groaning as she walks along. Chris eventually stops, and Anya looks at her, noticing that she is now pregnant, with something moving inside of her belly. Tentacles suddenly reach out from the cave floor and bind Anya to the ground. Anya asks Chris for help, but she is still unresponsive. Chris grabs the machete, but instead of freeing Anya, she opens her stomach. A strange creature falls out of her stomach, and Chris then immediately slashes through it and finishes it off. Anya keeps asking for help, but Chris is still unresponsive. The tentacles slam Chris against a wall, leaving Anya alone and helpless. A large creature finally reveals itself before her. It repeatedly thrusts at Anya's crotch until she eventually passes out. However, she was faking losing consciousness, immediately getting up after the creature lets go of her limbs. She grabs the machete and slashes through the creature multiple times. She takes the opportunity to escape and reaches the outside, where she hurls profanities at the creature inside. Her celebration is cut short by Mel, jumping on top of her from a ledge. They both struggle to get away from each other, and Anya eventually tosses Mel into a tree. Mel's spine cracks, rendering her immobile. Anya now decides to finish the job, grabbing onto a large rock and smashing Mel's head in. She stands over the creature's corpse in triumph, swearing one last time.